Welcome to Liverpool FC Journal. I'm Owen James, guys. This is your Liverpool news update. Let's smash straight into it this morning. We're going to talk Xhaka. We're going to talk Arne Slot on the round table. Fucking King Arthur. Is he King Arthur? I don't know. There you go. King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. Remember back to school, guys. Remember back to school. Also a bit of Mo Salah this morning as well. Right, let's start off with that round table. And one of the comments that's kind of been most picked out from what Arne said in that round table. He said a lot in that round table. And look, I think whatever you think of that, we'll come back to that in a minute. Whatever you think of the round table, I think we've all got to take it with a tiny little pinch of salt. It was PR. It was organised by the club. It was Vicky Gomersall asking the questions. There were no tough questions. There were no kind of push questions. It was all very friendly, dolly ups to be smashed out of the park. It certainly wasn't a kind of in-your-face kind of let's put pressure on the hierarchy at Liverpool to explain certain things that have not gone well this season. It was never, ever going to be that, was it? So we've got to kind of take everything when it comes to that side of things with a tiny little pinch of salt, haven't we? But this one, like I said, let's get back to this comment that Arne made. He says, as a coach, you can win the league, you can win the Champions League, you can win the FA Cup or the League Cup, but the greatest thing you can win is to deliver beautiful football for the eye. This is, I think, a very pointed comment that he made in this interview that he gave. It was very much pointed towards the criticism, I think, of what we're seeing on the park week in, week out from Liverpool. I think one of the biggest things that's been levelled against Arne Slot's Liverpool has been it's boring, it's slow, it's turgid, it's predictable, it's easy to play against, it's just not good at all. And I get that, and I understand that. However, look, Arne, I think, is trying to directly kind of tune that out and push to one side and saying, look, I'm not aiming to play this way. What I am aiming for is to push this on to the next level. What I am aiming for is to bring you that attractive football. And that's what I want to see. And as a manager, that's what I want to do. Look, I think, obviously trophies are very important. As a football club, we expect to win trophies. We expect to be in the running for the FA Cup, for the League Cup and for the Champions League and for the Premier League. We don't expect to ever not be in the talk for those trophies. It is the expectation at this football club. It is the standard at this football club. But like I said, I think that was a very pointed return at those criticisms that were made of Arne Slot and his playing style of so-called slot ball by fans and by critics and by analysts alike. So I do believe that was a very kind of trying to sort of, bat it back and say, look, this is not the end game. This is not what I'm aiming for. Now, look, yes, against Qarabag and Newcastle, we've seen a lot better style of football. We've seen a more attacking Liverpool, a more forward-thinking Liverpool, a more dynamic Liverpool. And let's hope that we are getting back to that. And let's hope we are kind of doing that. I think it would go a long way for Arne to help him secure any future he may or may not have at the football club. Look, I don't think anything can come out of that round table interview saying that he's definitely staying or he's definitely going. You can't draw any conclusions for that. It is, like I said, it is a PR piece by the football club, and we've got to take it as a PR piece by the football club. Guys, give me your thoughts on that one. I'd love to know what you've got to say and what you thought about that. We'll talk a little bit more in different videos about some of the other elements of that round table interview. I just thought that quote was very interesting from Arne. I think to some degree, though, Arne has been kind of disarmed by the fact that he has not had perhaps the players that he would need. He's always talked about wanting wingers. They have not always been provided, and then you've got to raise the questions, is Richard Hughes fully backing his manager here? Is he giving him the tools to do the job? Or is Arne got those tools, but he just won't use them? Rio and Gamer, Fernando Chiesa, for Federico Chiesa, for those weapons. I don't know. Look, it's very much up in the air. Right, let's talk a little bit of Mo Salah. Look, I think anyone, even the most ardent Salah fan, can admit that he has not been at his best this season. That he has struggled this season. He seems off the pace. He doesn't seem to have that ability to get away from people anymore. He doesn't seem to be. He doesn't seem to be able to push on. He does seem to find it more difficult now, and there comes a time in any player's career as they get older, as they reach a point where they struggle and their body catches up with them, and Father Time wins. And I think Salah is very much at that point, which has now prompted further discussions around his future. Look, Saudis have always wanted Salah. The Saudis want Salah. That's clear. Al Ittihad apparently interested. The Saudi Pro League want him. He would be a major coup for them. He would be a poster boy, realistically, for that league, wouldn't he? An Arab African footballer coming from Egypt to play in Saudi would be a major coup for them. And I think that's always the intention. Now, there's been a lot of talk around this 2-year deal that he was given last summer. That the intention was always to have that one final season where he says, yeah, that's it, goodbye. Yes, this season has been slightly clouded and spoiled by the fact that, look, has he played to his fullest abilities? No. There's been obviously the arguments with Arne Slot, the fallout with Arne Slot, that interview that he gave, which has kind of I think ruined it a little bit for him. I think, given that interview, given what he said, I think there's a very strong likelihood that Liverpool will move him on at the end of this season. I've always kind of maintained that I do believe that the deal was signed so we could have 1 year of Salah, then we'd sell him for some money, we'd get some money back, he'd get the move he wants, he'd get the money he wants, and both parties are very happy. I do think that Salah will go to Saudi Arabia at the end of this season, if I'm being wholly honest on this one. Right, let's talk a little bit of this man, Jeremy Jacquet, the new signing. A guy who has been raved about, a guy who has been likened to early days William Saliba, the Arsenal player. They keep that win last night really peed me off. But Jeremy Jacquet is an exceptionally talented young man. He was wanted by a whole host of football clubs across Europe, Bayern Munich, Manchester United, Chelsea, Liverpool, obviously, who in the end we got him. He is a very talented footballer, a very talented footballer indeed. And there's certainly, seems to be a kind of, belief that this guy is going to go on to be absolutely huge in the future by a number of people in the know, a number of people who know him, a number of people who know things about this man, or this boy, as he could be at 20 years old. Look, I mean, as a player, we'll talk about what people have been saying about him in a minute, but as a player, he is very physical. He is exceptional. Is the comment that was made about his physicality. He has a burst of acceleration. He's agile. He has pace over long stretches, short stretches. He was clocked at a maximum speed of around 34.5 kilometres an hour against Lille this season. His aerial win rate is 75% upwards. He is a very talented player on the ground, in the air, in covering, in passing. He is really the all-round player. Now, a French journalist has been talking about Jacquet. This is what he had to say. He says he has a long way to go, but he's been impressive last season after Rennes called him back from his loan in the second division. And this season with Habib Bey, you can't get it wrong. He's going to be amazing. And he has been amazing so far for Rennes. Now, yes, he hasn't played for the French national team yet. Yes, he hasn't played in the Champions League or the Europa League yet because Rennes haven't qualified. So, he hasn't really tested himself against the very best as of yet. Yes, he has, of course, played against PSG, against Marseille, against Lens, the teams at the top of Ligue 1 at this moment in time. But you can see, can't you, in a player when you watch him, when you watch his movement, his reading of the game, his tackling ability, his passing ability, you can see a special player, and he's certainly there. This is what the journal went on to say. He says, he reminds me of when William Saliba burst onto the scene with France, with Saint-Etienne, or Wesley Fofana. It's about how much you value that potential and talent. You would pay a lot of money for someone who hasn't really proved much. It's a lot of money for such a young player. So, effectively, he's likening him to, obviously, Saliba, who is probably one of the best defenders in world football right about now. And if he's going to be, anywhere near William Saliba, he's going to be a very talented player. And the journo's right in what he says. If you genuinely believe he has that potential, he has that talent, you're going to commit that money, aren't you? You're not going to sit back and go, I don't know. I'm not sure. He could be. He might not be. I don't know. Is he? If you are definitely sure, and these scouts, these data analysts, they know what they're doing. They've done it for years. They're experts at this in this field. And yeah, for every one they get right, there's one they get wrong. But this lad certainly seems to be one they're going to get right. And I think the commitment of that 60 million in the end towards him will be a major commitment, a major positive. And I think it is a real major show of faith in this player. Now, he will play next season. That is what apparently he's been assured of, that he will be part of the first team plans going forward, and then he will get his chance. So, look, he quite clearly is a very special talent, and we have got ourselves a very, very good footballer. And look, the future at centre-back is moving forward. You know, Giovanni Leone, another young player signed, looks very talented, and obviously the young lads like Ndai and Ekinfewe and those others, I can't remember the names of the guys, you know, who've come through as well and had been bought in this window, the 19 and 18 and 17-year-olds that are going to go straight into Rob Page's on the 21 squad. So, look, this is a good future at centre-back for Liverpool, and certainly, you know, given the struggles we're having this season at centre-back, it is reassuring to see there seems to be a future-proofing of that position for Liverpool Football Club. Guys, let me know your thoughts on the stories we've covered in this video. Thank you for watching Liverpool FC Journal. Please obviously like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you next time.